So when building out a website for a client, one of the questions you need to ask yourself is, what tooling am I going to use to build out this site? Now, for my channel, a lot of the times I like to dive into the React code, the front end code, the JavaScript code, the back end code, and just code it all myself. But there are some downsides to that. It's a lot more to maintain, and it requires a lot more knowledge up front just to implement some basic functionality. So after understanding the project requirements, I'll go back and look at what options I have to build it out. And a lot of the times using something like a web development platform such as Wix Studio, which is the sponsor of this video, can help you hit the ground running much faster, and it has a lot of baked in functionality that you don't have to worry about as a developer. Now, I'll be honest, I kind of like to avoid platforms like this, but after trying Wix Studio, I realized how much flexibility it has to just start diving into the actual code when you need to customize things and do things yourself. For example, I have this review page which hooks into Wix Studio CMS and stores data as people submit forms. And also I run a node package across the messages to filter out bad words. And I'm going to show you how I built out this entire website using Wix Studio. So if you guys are interested in seeing how I built out this application, be sure to stick around. I'm going to build all this from scratch, only using their visual editor and their code platform like I showed you. And I think it's going to be a very good experience if you haven't been exposed to web creation platforms. Let's just go ahead and dive into it and hope you guys enjoy. All right, let's just jump into using Wix Studio. I'm on wix.com/studio/development, and I'm going to click Start Creating, which is going to take you to the Manage dashboard. So let's just go ahead and click Create New Site. And I plan to be using a blank canvas because the goal of this video is to teach and to learn. But I do want to point out that they do have a bunch of starting point templates that you can kind of build a website directly from. And most of these are really well designed and they look really nice. So if you want to just use something that already is existing and just modify it, that is an option as well. All right, so what are we building? We are trying to build out a professional website for a pressure washing company. And off the bat, this editor has a couple of cool things that I want to point out. So for example, we have this sidebar over here and you can actually view the layers of your page. So for example, we have the whole page here and that has a header in it. And then we also have a footer down here. We have the main section. So in these different layers, you can click on them and we can start doing stuff such as adding left and right content, adding images, etc. But the header itself, this is a kind of a global component. So if I go to global sections over here, notice that the header in the footer shows up. And these are basically sections that will show up on every page. You can modify it and have it not show up on particular pages. But these are some of the things that we're going to start with, and then we'll view into, and then later on, we'll jump into the more advanced stuff, such as the code editor, and then probably use a little bit of the CMS. But let's just go ahead and start with building out our landing page, because that's one of the most important things of having a website. So let's just click on the header here, and I do plan to edit the text of this header to have it use our real business name. So I'm going to say the patio washers is the business who wants us to build a website for them. And then this image over here, we can also change the vector art. So if I click on this, we can find some type of vector art that matches this. So I'll say like power washing. Maybe something cool will show up. All right. Okay, this one looks decent enough. Maybe, you know, this company's maybe in Colorado in the mountains. So let's just go ahead and add that one as our vector. Now we have a nice little graphic. Obviously, if you had a real company logo, you could probably add that in. That's probably good enough for right there. I am going to zoom out just a little bit so we can kind of see the whole page. All right, and I will remember to hide my head. I know there's some stuff over here where, like, if I were to hide my head right now, there are some options for changing properties of sections and background color and stuff like that. But a lot of people like watching me be able to talk to them as I teach, so I'm going to keep my face cam on. So let's go to our main section here. You can just click it, and then we're going to split this left and right, right? So this allows you to create columns. You can also create rows that are divided equally in width and height. Cards, there's other options, but we want to keep this simple. I'm going to say split this by columns. And then over here, what I want to do is I want to change the background color. So down here, you should see where it says background. And I'm going to use one of the pre-existing background colors. I'm going to do just a light green here. All right. And then inside of this column itself, what we can do is we can add some content. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on this plus symbol. I'm going to say add some text here or a title. And then we're going to say, you know, a great power washing company. Now, to kind of help you out, if you don't really know like what you could put in a title, you know, like a header. Now, to kind of help you out, Wix has the ability to create AI text. So if you click on Create AI Text, you can go over here and say a power washing company. And then we're going to say the patio washers is our business name. We want a title. And then we're going to go ahead and say welcome. So I'll create the text here. That's going to use AI behind the scenes to give us some example text. I'll just go ahead and copy this. and then we're going to paste that in. Awesome. Let's just go ahead and move it up a little bit. So now that we have like the headline, let's just go ahead and add in like a sub header. So like as before, let's click on this plus symbol, and I'm going to go ahead and just add in some paragraph text, right? And I'm going to go ahead and just type this one out by hand. I'm going to say, we are a family-owned business dedicated to cleaning for 15 years now. Okay, something to build trust when people hit your website. And I'm going to go ahead and expand this. We can also modify the text of this. Like if you wanted to make this a little bit larger, we can go over here to font size. Maybe you want 24. Might look a little bit better. And then finally, we want to add a button. Okay, so let's just click on this again. I'm going to go find a button here. Here we go. And then I'm going to change the text here to contact us. Go ahead and save that. And now we have what would typically be on a landing page, right? So we have the title, the subheading, and then we have a button. When you click it, we probably want to go to another page, which we'll do in just a second. Now on the right side, I do want to make this look a little bit nicer. I'm going to go ahead and just click on Add Media, which opens up this cool media browser that allows you to find a bunch of images that Wix provides you out of the box. And you also have access to go to like Shutterstock and Unsplash and stuff like that. But we're going to type in power washing and see what images come up. And I think this one looks pretty good. So let's click it. I'm going to say add to page. And then we'll have the ability to kind of modify it if we want to, but pretty good as it is. Now I'm going to go ahead and just click on some of these things. So I'll click on this, this, and this. And there is an option called stacking it. So I'm going to go ahead and just create it into a stack. And that kind of allows you to space this as needed. So obviously we want to have this be a little bit closer. You know, this could be a little bit closer too. We can bring the whole thing down the center if we wanted to, or just leave it there. Over here, you can say I can vertically align it, or I could horizontally align it. That looks pretty good. Again, just lots of useful things that you can change for layout, position on the right. So don't forget that this is here. All right. And so once you think that your page or your website looks pretty good, you can just go ahead and click on this preview button. That's going to take you to a nice editor where you can actually look at what your page is going to look like when it goes live. And then I can scale it down and you can see what happens on a variety of breakpoints. So notice as we get to like mobile and tablet, we get this side navigation that allows us to go to home with this drawer over here. You can also change up here, go to like tablet or go to back to desktop if you want. But there's a couple of things that I probably want to change on this. So for example, when we go to tablet or mobile, maybe we can actually have the image be at the top and be a little bit smaller in width. So I'm gonna go back to edit site over here. And now that we're in mobile, what you can do is you can actually change the layout of how this looks. So I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna click rows. And that'll change it to look like this. And all the properties that you change over here will only be applied to the mobile view. So for example, if I want to hide this thing in mobile view, I can right click on this and I can do hide, which I'm going to do. And then I'm going to go ahead and just add a section up here, and we can just go ahead and add maybe a different type of image that makes more sense on mobile. Something that, let's go ahead and just change this image real quick. I'll say power washing, and we'll just click on, this one looks pretty good. Go ahead and update. And then we're going to scale it up to this full width and height of that container. And I'm going to go ahead and just move this thing up a little bit so that it looks like this. And then the text, we could probably just center align all of this. I know it's kind of small right now, but over on the right, we're going to go to layout and I'm going to say align items, just center everything. And then we can go ahead and just create a larger text for this. So I'll say heading. This will be paragraph 2. We'll make this a font size of like 18. And then this button, again, if we go to text, we can make this maybe 14 pixels. All right, so now let's go back to preview and notice that as we go to mobile, it's going to look like this. Scale up a little bit, and it's going to go back to our original tablet and desktop view. Now, to be honest, I'm not going to worry too much about the mobile design of this website. We're just going to keep it simple and just try to focus on the desktop. So as you can tell, it's like kind of squeezed up here. I'm going to go ahead and just select that individual cell. And then I'm going to go down the layout and I want to, position. I want to go ahead and just say 4%. Over here, I'll also do 4%. So it just looks a little bit better. Anyway, let's go back to desktop. And now what I'm going to show you is how you can build a new page. So when someone clicks on this contact us button, we want them to navigate to a new page. And it's actually really easy to do. So I'm going to go over here to pages, and then I'm going to go ahead and just create another one. Add a page. We're going to call this contact. There you go. And then just to make sure this is working, let's just add an element. For example, add some text that says like contact us. There we have it. But we do want to go back to our other page because the other page allows us to link to it. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my home page and I wanna show you something cool. If I go ahead and click on this Contact Us button, we can link to any other page that we defined over on the left in our Pages category. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on this link and we're gonna say, choose a page for when you click this and go to the contact page. Click done. And then over here in the header, notice that contact's not showing up. So you can actually manage your navigations in this menu here. And I'm gonna go ahead and just add an item. And we wanna go ahead and go to the main page here and we want contact to be included there. So you see how easy that was to add in a link to other pages? Let's go ahead and preview this and make sure this all works. Now when I click on Contact Us, it takes us to that page. Now let me just hide my face real quick. I'm gonna click on Contact, that'll take us to the contact page and go back to home. Pretty cool, right? Let's add one more section to this page and then we're gonna move on to some of the other pages. So down here, I'm gonna click on this plus to make a new section. And then we're gonna add some background image to this entire thing. So let's just go to the right over here. It says design background. I'm gonna say add an image or a video. All right, so I'm gonna type in backyard. And since we are a patio cleaning company, I mean, we might as well just do something that's related to a patio. Maybe this one will work okay. You can easily change it in the future, but let's just go ahead and click on that one. And now the entire background of that section will be the image that you select. But we're gonna make this section testimonials. It's good to kind of build trust by showing other people that they like your service. Sorry, this one got a little bit big. Let me just go ahead and reduce that size. So let's click on this new section that we added, and I'm gonna add something that we haven't done before. I'm gonna go up here to the add, and I'm gonna go to layout tools, and I'm gonna add a repeater. So for this example, I'm gonna go ahead and say in a repeater of like this. And this allows us to basically create a component that's gonna be duplicated multiple times as you add in more information. So we're gonna go here. And a couple of things that we want to do is we want to round this. So I'm going to go to corners and maybe we'll make the entire thing rounded by, I don't know, we'll say 10, maybe even 20. Okay. So now it has a little bit of rounded edges. Let me just zoom in a little bit. You could change the background. Maybe we want to make it that green theme that we had before, or maybe you can make it contrast a little bit by making it white. So I want to make sure I'm clicked on the repeater. And let's go ahead and just increase this size a little bit like that. We're also going to increase the height a little bit. And then for gap, let's make this like 32. You can even make it something more like 42 or something. And now we have some cards that we can pretend like we have actual reviews that people gave us for our service. Okay, so I'm gonna click on the first repeat item and I want to say add media and I'll just say person. Let's see if we can find like an example person who would be good. Let's click on this personal trainer. Maybe he has a patio and we did some business for him. So notice when I put this in the repeater, it's going to show up on every single card, right? But we can change it for, card number 2 and number 3. So I'm going to go ahead and change image and I'll say create person. Maybe this person gave us a review. Let's just go ahead and update that. And then I'm going to change this one as well. And we could just go ahead and pick this guy. Maybe he gave us a review. And so how it works, when you change the styling of the first repeater, it's going to apply to all the other ones. So let's just go ahead and make this rounded a little bit. I'm going to click on mask. We want to make this a circle. Awesome. That looks pretty good. But we also want to scale it down. It's a little bit big. So over here where it says responsive behavior, I'm going to go ahead and just say fixed. We want this to be a fixed width and height. And I think maybe 120 and 120 might be something that's more useful to us. Okay, we can go ahead and just move this up. And then we want to add some text. So obviously we probably want to click on the card and then we want to add maybe some, we can go to, let's see, go to quick add and I'll say add a paragraph here. And then we're going to just type in like a testimonial. Now I am going to use AI to just let us create a testimonial here. So I'm going to go ahead and just say like service description. And then I'll say a testimonial for our power washing company that did a great job. All right, so scrolling through the AI generated text, I can just grab this whole text. I think I only want some of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just paste all this in here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just delete all the way up to the single quote. Like that. Maybe put it in double quote so it's apparent to viewers that this is a quote. And then again, we can click on these two. We can go ahead and stack them. And then put a little bit of space between them like this. Now on the card itself, we could probably add padding to this so it's not, the text isn't going off. So let's go to over here. Let's say position. want padding on the right to be maybe 5%. On the left, 5%. See how that looks. Bottom, we could also do 5%. Okay. I might even bump that up a little bit higher, maybe even like 10%, honestly. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Usually testimonials have like a name on them as well. So we can go ahead and add another thing to this. Just add like another paragraph tag here, I guess. We can put it at the bottom of the stack, which we can go to layers, I think, and that'll make it a little bit easier to kind of reposition those. And then I'll just go ahead and put like a name. I'll say like Frankie B. And then we will just text align this center. Let's go over here, text center. Here we go. I'm going to bring this in a little bit so it matches up with the other text. Like that. And I think these cards over here, like we just put like Jesse in. And then we could also say Amy L. Go ahead and apply that to all of them again, like this. And to save us some time, like let's just copy and paste the testimonial to all three. And then we're going to center align all three of those again. So I'm going to click on this one, and then we are going to go ahead and center align, make it look a little bit nicer. So let's take a peek. This is what our website looks like right now. If I zoom out a little bit, not too bad, right? And then I'm going to add some space down here. And then also notice that the repeater, it's like off-centered. So again, how do you center this? Well, if I hide my head, I could show you. I just go ahead and click on this align there. And there you have it. You can also center align it or vertically align it there. Now for the image itself, it's a little bit, it distracts the eye, right? So I'm going to go ahead and bring the opacity down just a little bit so that the testimonials are the things that really pop. And then we'll go back to the item here, and we could either change the background. We could also add some shadows, like some drop shadows. And that's probably good enough. Also, we could try changing around the background. I think we have something pretty nice going on here. So let's go ahead and publish this site, and we can continuously publish as we're going through this tutorial. But basically on the top right, once you previewed and everything seems good, you can actually publish this, and then you can get a domain, or you can actually connect in a custom domain to this if you want to. Let's just go ahead and call it the patio washers. Now we'll use the domain that is provided by Wix Studio. Save and continue. And now everything is published. We can go ahead and click View Site. That'll open up our site, and we can scroll through, make sure everything seems good. And we have a nice little professional website for the pressure washing company. Okay, so we made the contact page, but we didn't really add anything to it. So I think we should move on to that. Let's click on contact over here. And a contact page would be very useful if we had a form where people can type in their name, their phone number, maybe some text area about like what they want, like what services they need, and then click a submit button and have that data stored somewhere. The cool thing is that Wix Studio actually has built-in form functionality. So if I were to go ahead and just click on this, click add, go down the contact and forms, notice that they have a create new form button here. And they also have a template, a contact us template, which we could start with. I think this actually is going to achieve most of what we need. So I'm going to actually just start with this pre-made template form. That'll import it, and we can customize it as needed. For example, I don't like this gray background. So let's go ahead and just like edit this form. Click edit form. That'll load up a modal, and we can kind of modify that form as needed. For example, one thing I would really like to have is a phone number. So let's just go ahead and click phone number. Then I'm going to drag this up. So first name, last name, phone. All right, I'm going to make this required as well. It's good to have a required phone, an email, and a message. And let's just go ahead and save this form, and let's go back and notice that our form will update. We'll have phone pop in here. We didn't have a placeholder. Maybe we should go back and add a placeholder, but it's fine. Let's just go to settings and let us modify the design a little bit. So this is another modal you can use to change how your form kind of looks. In our case, I don't like the background. So let's just go ahead and get rid of it. And other than that, I mean, everything else looks good. You can change the layout. You can change which form you want to use, because you can create multiple types of forms and just swap them out as needed. And let's just go ahead and close out of that one. And now we have a form, and let's try to figure out what is blocking the form over here. I think it's our contact us. So I'm going to delete that just with a backspace, and now it's gone. And we want to get the form on the left. So let's click on our main section here, and I'm going to go ahead and just split it. Or I can say add cell to the right, and that'll split it for us. And now notice that our form has been placed over here on the left. So we could change this form and make it maybe some type of like fixed height, or I could just scale it down a little bit. Right now I can't actually see any of the input boxes because I want to change this background to be a light green. That's kind of the theme we're going for. And then on the form itself, we can just go ahead and align that vertically. And I think we have like a fixed height here, but I mean, that looks pretty good. If we were to go ahead and just take a peek at that, we got a nice contact us form. I'm actually going to go back and modify that form real quick. I'm going to go back to phone number and I'm going to give it a placeholder. So I'm going to say placeholder text and I'm going to say phone. Save that. Now, the page would not be complete without some type of images to make it look nice. Divide this horizontally like this. And we could just go ahead and add some media. So I'm going to say like patio and see if we can find some patio images. This one looks pretty good. Just add that in. And then also on this one, I'll add some media. Maybe we can have like a pool deck. Pool deck. This one looks pretty good. Go ahead and add that. So not too bad. I probably want to add a little bit of space in between these two images. And now again, how can you do that? Well, you can go down and you can add just a little bit of margin or padding, whatever you want to do. I'll just add like a 2 to that one. And there you go. It's spaced out a little bit. Or you could add some to the top of this one as well. So like you could say this will be like a 1. This one will be a 1. There, just looks a little bit better instead of having those images directly on top of each other. So the cool thing about a form is that this is automatically connected to a data source. So if I were to go to preview and go ahead and submit this form, there's a couple of cool things I want to point out. If I try to submit this form, validation's already built in. You don't have to worry about adding the validation. It just does the HTML5 Wix Studio validation. And I can go ahead and just add some random stuff here. I'm just going to put a random phone number, email, test@example.com. And then for the message, I'll say, I need my deck patio cleaned, please. And so let's go ahead and submit this. But notice it says we cannot submit your form. So I do believe this will not work on preview. So instead, let's just go ahead and publish. Hide my face for a second. I'll go ahead and click publish. And now our site will be live with all of our changes. Go to contact. And then we'll just do the same thing real quick. All right, click submit. And now it says, thanks, we've received your submission. So let me show you the cool thing. You didn't have to code anything, but the data that the user just submitted will actually be saved in your form data. So let's actually go up here to the top left. I'm going to click dashboard. So over on the left, we can go ahead and say customers and leads. We're going to go to forms and submissions. And let's go to that contact form, the one that we just created. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to say view submissions. So let's go there. And we should see that entry show up. Now this one is actually marked as spam, which is pretty cool because this is a pretty spammy contact. But if I put some real information in, this would have showed up on the submissions. And you can kind of do what you need to do here. Maybe you can give them a call, and then once you're done processing it, you can go ahead and just delete it. Now you can just delete it out of the system. And your client has ways to just easily get contact information and call people back. So this is pretty cool. We have Wix Studio, which allows us to visually build out our applications with very little code. I mean, honestly, I didn't cut the code anything. But at some point, you're going to have to need a little bit of custom code. I've seen that throughout my career. You use these web creation platforms and you just need that extra custom functionality. The cool thing is that Wix Studio provides that. If you go over here on the left, you can actually enable a coding functionality feature, which gives you the ability to link into buttons, do custom validations if you need to, run custom JavaScript, and also create backend endpoints that you can call. And it's just cool. We'll go ahead and check this out. I'm going to go ahead and say start coding. And that's going to set us up for developer mode, which gives you access to a bunch of useful things. So the idea that we're going to do is, again, we want users to be able to leave reviews. So let's go and create a page, and then we'll come back to this code panel in just a second. The page we're going to add is going to be called reviews. And once we've created that page, again, let's just modify over here. And we're going to add the review page. So add item, main pages, reviews. Awesome. And we're going to code out a really simple custom form. Okay, so let's just go ahead and split this top to bottom. And I'm going to minimize the code editor for right now. But the top, this is where we're going to have our form. Again, same idea as before. We'll have like a green background. Go ahead and add a title here. So I'll say quick add, title, leave a review. Okay, go ahead and expand this. And then I'm going to go to responsive behavior. I'm going to say hug. And then I'm going to align this horizontally like this. Okay. I can even just move it up a little bit. And so we need to add in some custom fields. So I'm going to click on this cell. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to add in custom input. So you have the ability to add in custom emails and messages and stuff like that. Let's scroll down and try to see if there's anything interesting we can kind of reuse. In our case, let's use this phone number input, and we're going to rename this to not say phone number. It's going to say something else. So let's modify this, and we're going to change this to be name, and it's going to be a type of text. That should be good. And then we're going to do the same thing. Just add one, and then I'm going to add in special instructions. We're going to put that underneath here. We're going to change the settings. I'm going to change this to message. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and stack these. So let's just go ahead and convert this to a stack so we can kind of easily position these away from each other. Awesome. You know, I'm actually going to delete the second box, and I think this will allow us to expand this down a little bit because we want to have this be vertically centered. And the very last thing we want to add to this stack is a button. Let's go and find if there's a button somewhere. I think buttons were here. And I'll just go ahead and say, get started. We'll rename this to say something else. And we're going to rearrange this to make it be at the bottom of the stack. Change the text to say submit. Go ahead and drag this and just make it be full width. Easy enough. And again, just add a little bit of space in there. Okay. Okay, so how does this tie into the coding portion, right? Because I wanted to do some custom form functionality. So let's click on the code editor. And we are going to add some JavaScript logic for this page itself. So you can actually modify code down here on this page. So notice that we have main pages review, and we have the main page code already selected. And so as an example, I can go ahead and just like minify this. And we're going to say console.log hello world. And I want to show you that this JavaScript code will execute when this page is in preview mode. So I'll click preview. We have the developer console down here. And when this is done loading, you'll see that it prints out hello world. So now we have this easy way to add in functionality to our website, which is what we plan to do. So this is the master page. Basically, this is code that will run on every single page in your application, which maybe we didn't want to modify. I just want to add some functionality to this reviews page. So I'm actually going to click this code in Wix IDE. So this is just going to load up a code editor, which has access to all your different pages. So notice over here, we have review, we have home, contact, and we can actually move this code over here and save it. And if we need to do some custom functionality on this review page specifically, we can just go ahead and code it up there and go back to our Wix Studio. We can preview it and run it, and that will just execute for us. So what we're trying to do is when someone submits this button or clicks this button, we want to go ahead and invoke some code. So a couple things we want to point out is that if you look over the submit button, we should probably name these a little bit better. Right now it's called button 1. So instead we're going to call it submit. Now we can also go to our name input. I'm going to name this name, and then I'm going to go over here. I'll call it message. That. And that just gives us a better way to grab these HTML elements when someone clicks on the submit button. Okay, so let's go over to our code editor. Now in Wix, you have the ability to find elements. If you use this Wix $W, you can actually get a drop down of all of the selectors in your project, right? So if I want to say, give me that submit button, which I think we called submit. I do want to point out that this is really cool because if I were to mistype this, notice that it does highlight in red because the Wix Studio IDE knows that, hey, there's something on the page you're trying to reference that doesn't even exist. Right? So I thought this was actually really nice. It has context of your DOM elements. And so I can add, I can say on click, and I can go ahead and just add a function here. So I'm just going to do this. When someone clicks on the submit button, we want to do something. Let's just go ahead and console log, and I'll say clicked. And actually, I don't think we need to nest this with an on ready. I think we can just put this here if you're on the reviews page itself. So let's just add that. Let's just have it like this, and then I'm going to go back, and then we can preview it. So in fact, I'm going to minimize this. We don't need to look at that anymore because we have our IDE open on the other tab. Let's go to preview, and then we have the developer console over here. Let's load it up. Go ahead and click submit, and notice that the clicked message prints out over here. Okay, so that was to show that you can actually easily write JavaScript code inside the editor and have that be reflected on the page. All right, so what do we want to do? We want to basically get the value from that name input. We want to get the value from the message. We want to verify that they're both defined. And if they are, we can send that information somewhere. So over here, I'm going to say const name is equal to $W. And then we're going to pass it the hashtag, and I'll say name. And that's how we get our name. I can say value. That's just a normal HTML input value. Same thing with message. We can just do this. And then we can just go ahead and say if there is no name, we're just going to return. If there is no message, return. But you can make some custom validation logic here if you need to make this more complex, or do like regex to verify some things. And then we want to send this information over to a backend endpoint. Now, this is something that was really cool in Wix, is that you can actually create endpoints that you can call. So if I were to go to backend and just say new, and then I'll say reviews.web.js. Now I have a file that I can write some functions, and I can actually invoke those functions directly from my front end code. So first thing, let's go ahead and just export a function called save review. And we're going to bring in something called web method, right? So this is a module that comes from Wix web module. And we're going to go ahead and just give it some arguments. The first thing is you need to tell Wix who should be able to call this. So I'm going to say I want to make sure that anyone, I'll go ahead and just import permissions as well. And I want anyone to be able to call this endpoint. And then when the endpoint is called, it takes in a name and a message. And then we're going to do something, right? So I'll say to do, and I'll store name and message inside a reviews collection. So at this point, let's say you don't know how to do this part. I want to show you a cool feature that's built into the IDE, and that is you can actually ask AI directly. So let's load up the Wix AI assistant here. Go to generate code, and I want to say write me some code which takes in a string name and message and saves that to a collection called reviews. Okay, let's just go ahead and submit this. Okay, and now it's done generating some code. So we haven't talked about what a collection is, but Wix has a built-in CMS, which I'm going to talk about just in a second. But if we were to go ahead and import this code that it gave us as a suggestion, we can do that. And then down here for Wix data, we can say wixdata.insert. We can type in the name of a collection. I'll say reviews. And then we're going to go ahead and just type in name and message over here. And let's go ahead and wait on it. And then we don't really need the assistant anymore, so I'm going to close out of that. But this is how you can store data into your own database / collection if you need to. Let's just go ahead and save this, but I'm going to go back to the Wix editor because I want to show you how you can set up CMS. So I'm going to go over here to the left. There is a CMS button. If you click it, you can go to your collections. And notice that we don't have any. So let's just go ahead and create a collection here. I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm just going to create one from scratch. I'm going to name this one reviews. And then it needs to have multiple items stored in it. So let's just go ahead and say create. And we get a modal where we can actually add some fields. So I'm going to go ahead and say we want some text. And then we want this to be called name. Go ahead and save that. We're going to add another field. We're going to call this message. This. You can also change some stuff, such as making it required, giving a default value. But we'll just go ahead and save it for right now. And then I'm actually going to change name to be the primary. So I'm going to say make primary. And that allows us to go back and delete that one that we're not even going to use. Okay? Now there is one more thing we have to do when we create this collection, and that is we need to modify the permissions. So Wix Studio has the ability to come in here and you can change who can create entries in a particular collection. In our case, and add content. In our case, we want to say anyone. Anyone should be able to leave reviews in this collection. Let's just go ahead and save that. And now we should be able to have permissions for users to do that when they call our backend endpoint. So let's just go ahead and close out because that should be set up now and we have a reviews collection. The reason we did that is in our code, we're saying, hey, I need you to insert some data into this reviews collection here. This is how you can kind of do it. And the very last part is we need to have our front end JavaScript code invoke this backend method. How do you do that? Well, we go over here and I can say await. And I can actually just call this method directly, which I think is actually really cool. There's like a seamless connection between the front end and the back end. And if I just go ahead and call it like this, it should persist that data. The last thing I'm going to do is I do want to clear out these inputs. So I'm going to go ahead and say set the value equal to nothing here. And then also for message, let's set it equal to nothing. All right, so let's go back and then let's preview this and make sure it's all working. And I'll type in my name, I'll say Cody, I'll say this app is awesome. Go ahead and click submit. And that should be storing the information to a backend. Notice that it cleared out the forms. You could add more logic to add spinners or loaders. You could add logic to display an error message. Again, we have that complete flexibility because we're just writing normal front-end JavaScript code. But the Wix Studio allows you to dive into the code when you need it. So to verify this works, let's go to Edit Site and let's go back to our CMS. And let's view the collection. And let's click on the collection and let's make sure that we do have an item here. So notice that it says Cody, this app is awesome. That's pretty cool, right? We just stored some data inside of a collection and that didn't take much effort. And once you get a hang of like the syntax and the method you have to use, it's actually pretty easy. But another really interesting thing I want to show you is that as people are leaving messages, you can connect different HTML elements to show those reviews as they come in. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a section down here. And inside the section, I want to add a repeater. Let's go over here. We can add a layout tools. I could say add a repeater. That's going to look like this. So this repeater, I'm going to link it to that collection. So I'm going to go ahead and say connect to CMS. And in order to do that, over here on the right, it says add a data set. So I'm gonna go ahead and add one. And a data set is how you can like make a custom view across a collection or whatever else. So let's go ahead and click on reviews. And then for the data set name, I'll say all reviews. Go ahead and create that. And now this thing has been connected to that all reviews collection. So I can go here and I can add stuff. So for example, I'm gonna add let's go here, I'll add some text, and then we will connect the text to the CMS as well. So let's just go here on the right. I'm going to hide my head for 2 seconds. Notice that it is connected to the all reviews data set, like that. And then for connections, I can go ahead and link it to any of those fields that we created. In our case, we created one called name. So we definitely want to add that in. And notice that Cody is popping up. That's pretty cool. Go ahead and expand this a little bit. And then we're going to add in another one for the paragraph. So let's just go ahead and add in the paragraph. We're going to connect this over here on the right to message. And it should say this app is awesome after some time. And let's go back and style this. Go here. Let's find the text. So font size, we'll do like 20. Okay. And again, this is a repeater. So as we're like modifying this, any other things that people have sent in will be sent in as well. Now, I think it would make more sense if this actually had real text in it. So like, I think I'm going to go to edit text. I'm going to edit the content and I'm just going to go ahead and type in more stuff. So I'm going to say like, thank you so much for doing our patio. It looks really great now. All of my friends think I'm super cool because my patio looks nice. There you go. Let's go ahead and save that. And let's go back and let's view this updating. Okay, there you have it. So it's better to kind of design with more realistic reviews. I mean, this could be like multiple lines long. So you do want to test that out. And then additionally, we should probably test that with more data. So if we go back to our CMS and go to that collection, I'm going to copy and paste this row a couple times, just so that we are doing something more realistic. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Do it again. Change this to like Bob, Sally. All right, let's go back to the page because now all three of those should show up. And notice that, good thing we did that because now there's like no padding on the section. So what we want to do is on the section itself, you can give it some padding here. I'll just say like 10. Over here, I could say, okay, maybe 10 was too much. I'll do 5. This. And then between the repeater items, you'll probably put some more gap. Let's go and let's add 24 gap. Okay. And then let's click on the first item and we're going to round the edges. So let's find where it says corners. We're going to round this like 20 pixels just so it looks a little nicer. And then if you want to spruce this up, obviously you probably want to add like an actual image, and that image could be pulled from somewhere. I don't know, maybe you can randomly generate it. But just to make this look a little bit nicer, again, we could just add in an image of a person. Let's edit the image a little bit. A person. She looks pretty happy to have her deck clean. Let's just go ahead and do her. And then I'm going to round this. There you go. Change this to be fixed. And I'm going to hide my face because I think I want to show what I'm changing here. So this could be like 100. This could be 100. Like that. Go ahead and put her there. Move that over. Move this down. And then I think this should be pretty good. On the card itself, we probably want to add some padding to the bottom. Maybe 5 pixels so that the text doesn't go out. But yeah, I think we should just preview this and see how it looks. So I'm going to go over here and click on the preview and check it out. I'm going to go ahead and just type in a random name. Let's say Rick James. I love my patio now. Thank you so much. Let's just submit it. It will take a second to submit that data. But notice that it doesn't show up dynamically. That's not a great user experience. So the way we can make this automatically refresh when the form is done submitting is remember that this repeater is connected to a data set. So if we were to go to our data sets, which you can get to by just clicking on this connection link over here, and then we have data sets here. Go down and click view all page data sets. Let's click here and go to data set settings. I'm going to call this all reviews. Set. How about that? Go ahead and save that. And now if we go back to our code, we can say, grab that data set and I want to refresh it. All right, so that seems good now. And what we could do is just go over here. I'm going to go ahead and just go back to preview real quick. Make sure this still works. I'll say Mike Jones, and then I'll say hello world. Go ahead and submit that. And notice that Mike Jones shows up at the very top of our repeater because we refreshed the data set and that data is now there. So again, recap, that's how you can connect your front end DOM elements to invoke backend JavaScript code and also to invoke client-side JavaScript code, which indeed will invoke your backend code. So I think I'm going to add one more page, and this page is going to have like a gallery. So let's just go ahead and add another page. I'll call it gallery. We're going to update this to make sure it has access to the gallery. So here I'll say add an item, main pages, gallery, apply that. And for the gallery, first thing we're going to do is probably add some text here that says gallery or check out our work. Okay, and then I'm going to hug that so it's like on one line and then center it in both horizontal and vertically. And then finally, we can just move this up a little bit. Probably change the background of this to be that green that we've been kind of using on every page. And then I'm going to add a section down here. So in Wix, we have a gallery component we can just go ahead and pull in. Let's go to media and then let's go down to pro galleries. Let's just import that pro gallery. And here is what the gallery kind of looks like. You can modify it by clicking on the gallery and say manage media. And so we're going to select everything and just delete it because we want to add images that are related to pressure washing. Say pressure washing. I can just go ahead and shift select anything that's related to pressure washing. Okay, go ahead and add those at least. Then I'm going to add some more media. I could say like pool deck. Looks pretty good. That looks good. Okay, let's just do that. Update those. Now we have like 9 images. So let's just go ahead and click done. And now those should be laid out in like a masonry grid type of style. You can also change the settings of that. If you don't want it to lay out in that way, you can go over here and I want it to be collage. You can do that. Maybe collage would look a little bit better for this particular client. Or you could do like thumbnails, which is pretty cool. You have like this built-in slider people can click through. Or bricks. I think bricks looks pretty nice too. I might keep it as bricks. All right, so now we can just move it down a little bit and go ahead and just preview our site. Make sure that page is looking good. Okay, so now we'll have a bunch of images that are client. All right, so let's just scroll down here. You can click on these and we actually get a nice little preview accordion out of the box. Awesome. And then let's just make sure that the links still work at the top. So let's go and click reviews. Make sure that takes us to the review page. All right, everything is looking good. Let's just go ahead and publish one last time and then we'll check it out. I'll go ahead and click view site and make sure this is all looking good. So let's just hide my face real quick. Let's just give it one last look through. I think we did a pretty good job making a website with very little effort on our part. Due to Wix Studio has all these built-in things that you don't really have to code too much, although if you do need to drop down into the code, you have that advanced functionality you can kind of get. All right, so this is all working pretty well. Now there's another really cool thing I want to point out is you have access to bringing in node modules, right? So over here, if I go to my code editor and click on packages and apps, and you get this cool modal where you can kind of browse and search through NPM modules, which will hopefully work in Wix Studio. There are some modules that won't work, so you kind of have to test it out. But for the most part, a lot of the ones that you might need to use will probably be accessible. And there's one I want to kind of demo out. For example, what if someone leaves something that has some nasty words in that review? So I'm going to go ahead and bring one called bad words. I think you can search for it like this. And it's a JavaScript filter for bad words. I'm going to go ahead and install this. And now that that is installed, I can use it directly in my code base, right? So I can go to my editor over here. And let's go back to where on the back end, this review is getting like submitted. Let's go and import filter from bad words. And honestly, I don't know why this is red, but I think it still is going to work. So instead of just storing the name as is, we can actually pass it through a filter. And we're going to say, up here, I'll say const filter is equal to new filter. And so that we can actually use this filter method, I can say filter.clean. I'm going to pass in this, and I'll say filter.clean, pass in message. And now if we go back and just pretend like we're typing in some bad words, let me click on the preview again and let's test this out. Now to test this out, I'm going to try to keep this mild, but I'm going to say, let's say Bob is not very happy with the pressure washing service that we did. And he's going to say, you did a SHIT job on my deck. Okay, let's just submit this. And over here, it says, Bob, you did a star job on my deck. So that's pretty cool, right? We brought in a NPM package for filtering out some bad words, which is a realistic scenario because you don't want those bad words getting to your public page and everyone reading them, okay? So that's how you can bring in third-party packages. Really cool, built in out of the box, and that modal that gives you the ability to kind of like search it as like a marketplace. It's really nice. Now, some final things I want to point on, which I might not dive into in this video, is you do have access to hook into external databases. So over here, you can say add external database. You can click into AWS. You can click into a Postgres database, etc., which I think is pretty cool as well, because now you're not just like tied into the CMS that Wix Studio provides you. You can use whatever data source that you want. You can kind of pull that data in. And then finally, you can connect this to your GitHub repo, which is super important if you're getting into more complex code of your front end. You want to have that version control somewhere. So you can just connect it to GitHub. Your editor will basically be able to commit, I think, to GitHub. Another important thing is Secrets Manager. So let's say you're connecting to OpenAI and you want to add some AI functionality into your application. You can use Secrets Manager, which is built into Wix Studio, that allows you to basically put in some secret keys, and then you can reference those in your backend code to connect to OpenAI or something like that. So in Wix Studio, you have the ability to store new secrets. So for example, again, let's say you had an OpenAI key. I'll just say like ABC. You can save that, and then in your code base on your backend, you can reference that key and use it when you're trying to make a third-party library call. So honestly, like this editor has a lot of the functionality that you want to see when you're trying to build out your own applications, but it's built into Wix Studio right here, which makes it really convenient. So that's kind of a quick overview of why you may want to be using Wix Studio to manage your website and your applications for your clients, or if you're a web agency and you have to churn out websites very, very often, a lot, and you need a way to manage and maintain those. So be sure to also check out Wix Studio. I think you're going to enjoy a lot of the features that they provide you out of the box. The link will be in the description below. Other than that, have a good day and happy coding.